All right, I want to bring you this breaking news. Judges in two of former President Donald Trump's criminal cases rejected his motions to dismiss today.
CBS News Justice Department reporter Robert Legare is following these cases from Washington for us. So, Rob, talk to us about the ruling from Florida in particular. Let's start there and what that might mean.
Hey, yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. So this was one of a series of long-awaited rulings from Judge Eileen Cannon, who's based in Fort Pierce, Florida. She denied former President Donald Trump's request to dismiss Special Counsel Jack Smith's classified documents indictment against him based on the Presidential Records Act. The former president argued that this 1970s-era law precluded him from being prosecuted because it said that as president, while he was president, he was shielded from he had the authority to declare any documents as either official and falling under the government, the auspices of the federal government, or private and under his own property and control. The judge here said that there's no basis, based on the evidence that she has seen, to dismiss this in the pre-trial stage. And she says that the Presidential Records Act is not the basis for the charges or at least 32 of the charges that the special counsel brought against the former president, in which he is accused of violating what's known colloquially as the Espionage Act, the unlawful retention of national defense information. Prosecutors allege the former president unlawfully held on to what classified and sensitive White House records that were marked classified after he left the White House. And he argued, the former president, who's pleaded not guilty to those charges, we should note, argued that the Presidential Records Act made it so that he was allowed to do that. Here, the federal judge saying, at this point, the evidence does not say that the charges should be dismissed.
And Rob, this is significant because Judge Cannon has been under fire not just from Special Counsel Jack Smith, but from observers and legal analysts who have seemed to see her as typically ruling in favor of Donald Trump when it comes to this specific case and delays. Talk to us about why her ruling against Trump on just this motion as it relates to the PRA is significant as far as the big picture.
Right. So the former president has lodged a series of motions to dismiss this case based on numerous arguments. One has already been, I believe one, I need to check myself on that, it could be two, have already been dismissed. She dismissed very quickly after a hearing last month. That was based on the idea that the law that he's accused of breaking was vague. She said that that is not the case. And now this is just another denial of his motions to dismiss. And so really what we remain to see is when this case will go to trial. She has now dismissed a handful of these motions she's now denied a series of these motions to dismiss without actually setting a trial date. Right now, March 20th, or in the end of March, excuse me, end of May, I apologize, the end of May is the current trial date. But that is not going to happen. The case is not ready to go to trial then. The special counsel has said, let's do it in July. Trump and his co-defendants have all said, let's wait till after the election. That's the only time when we can have a fair trial. But we have yet to see when Judge Cannon will actually say when this case will go to trial. Just previously on Tuesday, the special counsel filed what many have described as a fiery response to an order from the judge, in which they said that a lot of her arguments or her questions about jury instructions related specifically to this Presidential Records Act, they said that they were not based in proper interpretation of the law. Here, the judge actually does take that on, and she says that their requests in that filing were unjust and unprecedented, and says that she doesn't want the parties to read too much into their requests because she was just trying to get more information.
All right, Rob, along with this case, there have also been rulings against the former president in both Georgia and New York City in the past 24 hours. What does any of that mean in terms of any of these cases actually beginning? Because so much of what we're expecting to hear and what will be important to the campaign is the timeline.
Right. So the timeline is very important. Obviously, the hush money case that you mentioned in New York is set to go to trial in April. We now have a motion to dismiss, a denial of a motion to dismiss in Georgia, and one here as well. There are other pretrial issues that have to be litigated, and defendants have a right to be in the courtroom at every point of their trial. And so, these trials can't go on synchronously. They have to go consecutively, one after another. And so what's going to happen is there's, judges are going to have to to look at the current trial schedule to decide what happens. We also should remember that there's another case pending here in Washington, D.C. with the former president that's currently on hold as the Supreme Court is set to take up the issue of presidential immunity in that case later this month. The former president has argued that he should be shielded from all prosecution based on this principle of presidential immunity. The Supreme Court is taking it up, and so Jack Smith's other case, the one based in D.C., tied to the 2020 presidential election, that's on hold at the moment. So whenever the Supreme Court makes a ruling, that could further complicate the calendar.
Yeah, we really appreciate you walking us through all of this. The headline being that the president's efforts to dismiss and delay a number of cases are unsuccessful, at least today. Rob Legare, thank you very much.
Thank you.